Foldable, powerful, with eye-catching design and price, which is definitely attractive. This is the latest coming from Engwe. It's called the C20 Pro, and you're right, time to inspect. Hi, welcome, nice to meet you. Michael here, Tech for All, and this is where I respect cool tech. This awesome looking bike is by Engwe, the C20 Pro, and I think now in 2020 we have such a variety of cool e-bikes that you can easily cherry pick something which is really decent at a rather good price, and I do believe this one looks totally cool and belongs to the good ones. But besides the subjective part, which is the nice design, I'll tell you about all the little details to figure out whether this is the right choice for you or simply to get to know yet another cool piece of tech. The company that produces these e-bikes is called Engwe and is in business since around 20 years. The big advantage is the fact that it owns the manufacturing process, meaning that this is the best value that could be extracted out of the components given. Competition. There are so many similar sized and priced e-bikes from Ado, Fido, Himo, and so on. $899 is, however, among the best ever deals, and if the bike really performs close to what Engwe promised, it would be awesome. So let's unbox. This has probably been the longest that I've carried a box by myself into the wild, because the weather was just getting better, but I totally wanted to avoid what happened a few weeks ago when unpacking the Kukuka bike, namely when the car got stuck in the mud. Anyhow, no such logistical challenges this time, if we exclude the wind. I had to eventually go and chase some little pieces and make sure I don't leave any trash behind, so it's been fun. Kudos to Engwe about the protective layers. There were 0 scratches that the e-bike gained during the transportation, and it was quite easy to remove all of them. This frame is really worth protecting because it looks quite nice. You know that I'm anyways a fan of these fat tire bikes, but this one has something quite unique. Paint is quite thick, which is a nice surprise because most of these good value bikes often have some corners cut and the paint coverage is among these corners. For the assembling, however, there's a bit more than the usual amount of work that you have to do. You need to properly lay the handlebar and install the whole folding mechanism for it. Not that it's too difficult, but you must tighten it quite well, because if this joint fails you during riding, it can be quite painful. Then comes the moment for mounting the front tire, and the next bit of good news is the quick release mounting, making it possible to quickly reduce the overall size of the bike. This is quite awesome for transportation indeed. The only thing to pay attention to is the disc itself, which needs to go between the two claws of the brake mechanism. It's gonna take a few more minutes to install the pedals, release the display from the protective layer and install the saddle. That's it. Prior to getting the bike on road, good to check the tire pressure and charge the battery to full. So, before we go out and I tell you about the real-life experience, let's quickly go over the technical specs. The bike is powered by a 250-watt motor in the rear wheel with maximum torque of 32 Nm. It's backed by the huge 19.2 Ah battery, which provides range of up to 150 km. Charging time is around 6 hours, thanks to the quick charging technology used. Climbing degree ability is up to 20 degrees, tires are 20 inches of size, 7-gear Shimano Tourney transmission, front fork with lock option and weight of around 25 kilos. If you belong to these people that can rate a product just based on reading the specs, most likely you already like quite a lot the Engwe C20 Pro, because I think it's currently hard to beat the whole package within $900. Well, of course, it does have some minor drawbacks. Maybe if I have to point to the weakest component, that will be the Shimano Tourney that they use as a derailleur, which is the lowest end from the Shimano portfolio. I'd recommend going to slightly higher model. If I need to point out to the best feature, clearly the battery which is in here, and the devil is in the details. I think those small things like the foldable pedals, which are with a very solid construction, and this attempt to hide all the cables in the frame, that's pretty awesome. But the battery, that's going to exceed your expectations. During my first cycle, I managed to squeeze around 100 kilometers. Yes, I was supporting by pedaling quite a lot, but never really came close to this achievement with the Fido's M1. So I do believe the battery is the best part out of all. Let's now talk about each of the main components. The motor, which is perhaps the most important one, it's 250 watts by Bafang with maximum torque of around 32 Newton meters. You can count on power comparable to a city electric scooter like the 9bot ES2 series. There are a few different riding modes and overall up to 5 different gears. A requirement in the EU is the top speed to not exceed 25 km per hour and to only get motor power by pedaling. Since this e-bike has a lever for accelerating, you can disable it in order to make the bike fully compliant, since by default its maximum speed already is limited. The pedaling assistance is very smooth, responsiveness is quite good, and I'm delighted with the way this e-bike performs. It's similar to Fido's M1 Pro, but not as responsive as some of the more expensive Bosch mid-hub motors. I still think that for the price you pay, this is an excellent choice, because this exact 250-watt motor made by Bafang is very popular, easy to service, and with a bunch of inexpensive spare parts that you may find online. The battery is the other remarkable part. It's close to 20 ampere-hours, and it is almost twice bigger than what you'd get with an e-bike at this price range. For a person with weight of around 90 kilos, the 150 kilometers are not really possible in pure electric modes, not even in moped mode, but if you support more, you can comfortably reach around 100 kilometers per charge, similar to my achievement. It's quite unusual to get such a long range out of a sub-$1,000 e-bike, so if range is your priority, I believe the C20 Pro needs to be on your shortlist, especially if you favor portability. Speaking of which, also the battery is portable. You will need the key in order to release it, and just gently pull it out. The brake setup is also fine. Not the most advanced brakes that you're going to get for an e-bike, they're not hydraulic, but are clearly not a bad option. I've had some very positive experience in the heavy rain, which very much surprised me. And no, this e-bike is not officially waterproof, but I can confirm that there are 0 issues after the 20-minute ride during the heavy rain. To be on the safe side, avoid too much of water. I guess we can count the C20 Pro bike being splash-proof, but don't push your luck too much. Front fork is also nice. It's not one of these expensive and mountain bike-grade forks like RockShox or Fox, but it was quite similar to the performance of the Ado's D20C suspension that I've tested a few weeks ago. Understand, a good basic suspension that does the job right. The remaining components are kind of usual. Tires are fine. 3 inches of thickness contributes to the smooth riding experience. Both tires act as suspension and you can play with the pressure, just find the right fit for your weight and you're going to enjoy riding a lot more than usual. Last but not least, I'd like to show you the electronics and the handlebar. It's quite narrow due to the goal to keep things portable friendly. C20 Pro comes with a very decent screen. It's visible in pretty much any light conditions, clearly better visible at night, but during the day you can also read the digits. Bunch of data available. Besides the current speed, there also is the battery status, trip distance, odometer, total mileage, and so on. There are a few extra advanced settings that you can play around with, like unlocking the speed limit, but use these features with caution and make sure that you're not violating any laws or regulations. Drawbacks. There are only a few little ones. The battery sometimes feels loose when you ride over bumps. Adding a thin layer of isolation may help and reduce such noises. The 2 basic derailleur, upgrading it is gonna cost you around $30, so that's pretty easy. And the large crankset, which makes the bike rather uncomfortable to ride without the motor supported a gear higher than 3. No smartphone app either, that's not a surprise. So, not bad, huh? Not bad at all, I would say. I totally enjoy the riding experience due to the fact there is motor support during pedaling, but also if you get lazy or tired, you can entirely rely on the lever, and on top of that it provides cruise control, which is both last options are forbidden in certain European countries. Anyhow, in the end, really interesting to find out what you think. My opinion, is that this bike is about to turn into my favorite e-bike for urban environments and going on short city distances because of its portability, the foldable design, the awesome construction which hides all the cables, and the battery life which has exceeded by far my initial expectations. But of course, you might know some other cool models that you want to share about in the comment section below the video. And as usual, link with the discount and everything that you've seen throughout this episode you can find somewhere in the video description. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm Michael. Look forward to see you in the next one. Cheers.